Hey everybody, welcome back to the shop. Some of you know what this is. That's your standard copperhead snake. And I thought it would be fun to try and put that snake on a knife handle. I'm going to call this a micro relief challenge for myself to try and fit that snake on the handle of a knife. Now, I'm not going to actually color the snake in to look like a copperhead. I just wanted the outline of the body because it was bent correctly. Some of you know that the handle, or the hammerhead on that hammer, was busted. I fixed it with some simple epoxy, created a little frame for it, a little form, and fixed it up. Here, I'm putting the cross marks in the center so I can find center. The origin was in the center on each of these, and there's the knife I'm using. Pretty small to try and fit a relief carving on the handle, but I think we can do it. Using an 1/8 inch, I'm using a 1/16 ball end mill to do this. We're going to give this a go, and I wanted to show you my fancy new mini keyboard that I can use to move around the spindle to zero that out. And that black square in the center of that mini keyboard is actually a mouse pad that you can slide around with your thumb and adjust your computer. As always, we're using the PWNCNC dust boot with a magnetic front. I'll leave a link in the description to PWNCNC. You can check those out for yourself. And here we go. I had no idea if I was going to be able to do this or not, as tiny as that snake is going to have to be. But believe it or not, we nailed it on the first try. I always say it's mesmerizing watching that thing going back and forth across that project. And obviously I've sped this up quite a bit. We're going to jump ahead here. But it's pretty cool. It's look like it's a happening. And that is maple, by the way. We're cutting this in maple. We're going to run the finishing pass the opposite direction. And as you can see, the bit just keeps jumping over top of the snake there on the handle. This is the easy part, really. The challenging part is coming here later on. Just because your CNC has the ability to do this doesn't mean that you don't have to fine-tune the shape or the handle when you put this on the knife. Thought I'd give you a close-up of how this thing's working back and forth. As you can see, it's taking up just a hair on the edge of that snake. But when it was finished, they came out perfect. First try. And you know me, I like to show off my clamping system. Here I'm using a 1-2-3 block to give me the distance. And we're going to slice off the pieces here. Remember to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We have a 3/8 inch spacer. I make those out of wood just because it's a lot simpler for everyday measurements when you're trying to set up your saws or any other piece of equipment. We'll slice these off to get the thickness as close as we can. You don't want to get too close. You don't want to cut off the snake. Little piece of cedar there to push it through and not trim my fingernails. Here we'll continue to thin down the two halves. And just when I touched that with my finger, I realized that's kind of stupid. You might want to do something a little bit safer than that. So we'll use a hammer handle to keep the front end down. Always work safe. You don't want to get hurt in the shop. Now we're going to go to that line right there. That gives us roughly just over 1/8 of an inch worth of skin for the knife handle. We'll continue to run it through the jointer until we get it down to that line. And that is close enough. Cut them in half to give us 2. And this is where the challenging portion of this this project actually takes place. We're going to need to shape those skins so that they fit the handle of that knife. And that's all done with handwork and carving. But they did come out pretty nice. So we're going to lay the knife handle on the top, confirm that the snake will actually fit from top to bottom on both sides. And it does. We'll take a pencil and we'll trace around the handle of the knife to give us a rough shape. And then when we cut this off on the bandsaw, we'll stay well away from that line. We don't want to hit that line or we'll run into the carving that we've put on there. And that means you get to start over. But we are getting closer to having a knife handle here. Do the same thing on the other half. Nothing to it. Bing, bang, boom. We got two skins. Going to use a little 5-minute epoxy here. And I stirred this way longer than what it shows in the video, but I didn't think you needed to see me swirling that stick around for 20 minutes. It was actually 5. But we'll slather up the handle. We'll line it up on the knife itself. We'll use some squeeze clamps here. Adjust the handle until it's on there correctly. The orientation is correct. Confirm that we don't have it on backwards. And we'll do the same thing again. Second verse, same as the first. And when I went to glue this one on, I couldn't get the clamp to hold the skin in the right position. It kept dancing around. I finally got it there. And you should be wearing gloves when you do this. That stuff gets all over your hands and it smells horrendous and it's not easy to clean off. But it is nice having that paper because your cleanup is a snap. So we put down a fresh piece of paper and we let that sit for, I think it was 4 or 5 hours before I started to mess with it again. But it sure does look nice, even as rough as it is. A little glue got on the handle there, but that's all part of this. It's all part of the cleanup and the shaping. Fits the hand, looking pretty good. Now, as I said, this is all handwork. We're doing this with belt sanders and knives, and we're going to carve some things. It really is a lot of fun doing this. Once you get the hang of it, it really is a lot of fun. Here I'm using my little belt sander. Almost had that stick fly out at me. Wasn't taking the material off as well as I thought it should be. And it dawned on me that the belt is probably pretty old. I probably should replace it. So right along here you'll see me pop this old one off and we'll get a new one on there. Push in on the end of that tool and it puts some slack in the belt so you can take it off. We get a bag full of new belts, put the new one on, and we're ready to rock and roll. What the? This crazy thing. It always helps if you beat on your tools a little bit like this. I wonder what's wrong with this thing. It's probably not the 10 pounds of dust that's built up inside it. Let's try this again. New belt. Push the button, create tension, turn it on, and we're back in business. Now here's where the hand carving portion of this comes in. I'm using an X-Acto knife on this thing because the snake body is actually just a little bit above the top of the knife, and because I wanted this to look hand carved. I didn't want it to be so symmetrical that everything looked like it came off the CNC. And if you watch or look close, you'll see that the one snake on one side is a touch longer than the other. So these do indeed look like hand-carved handles. Here I wanted to show you that you put your thumb against the other thumb and create pressure forward. That gives you a lot more control when you're carving something. I'm peeling off just a small thin shaving there. Those are cross cuts so you don't split your wood. And you just ever so slowly keep working along until you get the shape you're looking for. Now, I stabbed the point of the knife into the table. That also helped me hold it still. And you should probably have blue tape on the blade as to not cut yourself. Fortunately, I did not cut myself, but I'm just saying, when you're going forward with your projects, you probably should tape off the sharp edge of the knife. And here we begin hand sanding. There is a ton of micro sanding that has to be done on these guys, but it's all part of it. And when you get the finished product on this thing, it just came out beyond what I had expected. Like I said, we weren't going to turn this into a copperhead, but I wanted to give it a little bit of detail. So a quick couple of hash marks with a Sharpie, crisscross, make X patterns, and boom, we have a snake on a handle. I'm very, very pleased with the way this thing came out. As you can see, it definitely looks hand carved, because one side is different than the other. We'll use a little bit of wipe on poly here. And I immersed it in it because I wanted to make sure that it soaked in well, and I should have been a little more careful. I slopped it on the blade. I had to wipe that off. But it really, really did come out nice in the end. From something that I had doubts I could pull off to that custom handle. Very, very nice. And I challenge you, if you have a CNC, or if you think you can hand carve it without the CNC, pick up yourself a knife blank and put some handles on it. It really is a fun project. As always, I want to thank you for watching. I hope you got something out of the video. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope maybe it inspired you in some way. Please give us a like, subscribe if you haven't done so already. And as always, we'll catch you on the next one.